if you continue to have kids when you're dead broke, I think that's extremely irresponsible. I really think that you're self-centered. You want a baby, not a human. And then when they become like toddlers and stuff, you just let them play out in the street, and it's just you feed them junk food. And you don't really care about where you live or what education they should. You don't really. You're just having kids. You're just out here fucking. You're out here making productive human beings. You're just fucking. And wrong. You'll never ever be prepared for a baby, right? I'm a father of 4. You'll never ever be prepared. But what you can have is some nuts in your. Got some nuts put away. You know what I mean? You got some harvest. You got some stock. But you out here just having kids, knowing that you're bringing children into a bad situation, unfavorable one. No dad, no mom. Stuff is messy. This, that. Then I feel like that's a lack of you are not competent. Like you're not paying attention to yourself. You want a baby for attention, whatever. You don't want humans. Like I think it's irresponsible, and I hate to be this harsh, but. And it's just like, you just out here, you 6 kids in, and like, why? Like,
he's absolutely cooking on this one. I have to agree. I always said it, man. It's babies raising babies in the United States of America as the generations continue to move forward. And ultimately, having a kid is a lot of work. It's not like having a dog or having a cat. You are solely responsible for somebody. They say 18, but really, I would say 21 if they go to college. If you want to do things responsibly in the right way, finances is just part of it. How you was ultimately raised, you're going to instill your vision. You're going to instill how you were raised into your child, and it goes on to the next, to the next, to the next, unless that child is able to break generational curses or they're able to have a different thought process than what environment they grew up in. Not to say whatever you instill in your child is right or wrong, but we're talking about the ones that just grow up in the hood. We're talking about the ones that don't have a mom or maybe don't have a dad. We're talking about the ones that was forced to go through foster care because their parents had them irresponsibly and had to give them up. Having a kid is a big deal. And first and foremost, we should not be caring before we marry. We should marry before we carry. Some people are going to disagree with me on that. Again, I'm coming from more of a religious standpoint. And just knowing that when you have kids, it no longer becomes about you. It's bigger than you. You should take pride in having your own DNA that's next to you. That should be something that you should take pride in. And, you should be willing to die for your kids. You should be willing to absolutely lay your life down on the kids, because ultimately these are human beings. These are creatures that did not ask to come here. They did not ask to come here. And some of the stuff that I watch, these entitled mothers, these entitled, parents in general, when it comes to their kids, it's absolutely insane, man. Your job is to make sure you do the best thing you can to lead the generation to greatness, to make sure you put your child in a better position than you was growing up. That should always be the standard. Should always be the standard.
What do you own? Like, do you have life insurance? What's gonna happen to you? Like, what's gonna happen? We're gonna car wash for you? Like, what we gonna do? Like, I just think it's irresponsible. You'll never ever be ready for a baby, but I think you could at least have a little bit of things in order. Like, you have decent credit. You don't have to have a house, maybe an apartment, a bedroom for them, like a car big enough for them. You know what I mean? Like, the minimum. But I just think it's responsible.
And let's not even touch on the women that are actually trying to abuse and use the system by being on Section 8 and food stamps. Literally, they're having kids just solely to be dependent on the government. It's not the majority. That's a minority, or at least I would want to hope it's a minority, right? But you have women out there that are abusing the system. They're purposely getting pregnant by Pookie and Ray Ray, busting kids out left and right. They have no education. They don't even have $100 in their savings account, let alone going to have another kid and expect taxpayers like me and you to pay for it and fund it. It's too much contraceptive in the year of 2026 for us to be having any oopsies. And I do believe that majority of the people on this earth are unplanned. They're unplanned. Now, this doesn't make me better than anybody, but I was planned, or at least so my parents told me I was planned. I was planned. Having me was intentional. And they did everything they could to make sure I was in the best possible position to succeed in life. And it worked.
If there's one thing I will always stand by, and I believe, it is not having kids until you're financially stable. Because like bringing kids into poverty, in my opinion, is just like it's wrong. Because I mean, like think about it, like if your parents had no financial literacy on anything, grew up in poverty, had kids don't know anything about financial literacy as well because the parents didn't know anything. So it's like those kids have to grow up not having any type of financial literacy at all, and eventually they got to try to find a way or learn something to break out of that cycle. And comparing it to a person who's wealthy, like if a wealthy person have kids, they're going to teach their kid or kids everything when it comes to wealth and how to make money.
They own it. They own the trust. They own the teaching of life insurance. They own the teaching of credit. They own the teaching of stocks. The difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. How ultimately we can be our own bank and push out the banks that are charging high interest because now we can borrow against our portfolio. Or we can borrow against the cash value of our whole life insurance. We only buy assets instead of liabilities. And if we do have to buy something, we're strategically buying something for our business that we can leverage and use while simultaneously getting a write-off for taxes. Stuff is not being taught. It's not being taught. It's a completely different game. And this is why the wealth gets wealthier and the poor gets poorer.
How to cycle with like all of that. And if they have kids, they're going to teach their kids. So it's going to be an ongoing cycle for them.
This might be a hot take, but having kids while being financially unstable is child abuse. Having a child while knowing that you have bad credit will do nothing but set you up for failure. You won't be able to get approved for adequate housing. You won't be able to purchase a home. You won't get approved for financing, especially with a vehicle. And even if you do get approved, those terms are going to be horrible. Those terms are going to be so bad that they are going to put you in a worse situation than what you are already in. Having a child while knowing that you are on minimum wage or you're maybe $5 above minimum wage is child abuse. You won't be able to provide the proper food, resources, clothing, all of these things the baby needs to be healthy and stable. And I fully get that there's government assistance, but that should not be the mindset. No one should be having kids going into it thinking, okay, well, there's going to be government assistance to help me out. No, that should not be the mindset. And I'm not trying to be condescending to anyone in any shape or form, but you should not have that mindset. And the craziest part is that every time there's someone that does not have their finances together, when you look at how many kids they have, it's always a bunch of them. And I'm starting to think that some people are literally only having kids so that it will increase the amount of funding that they are getting from the government, and that's horrible. This might be a hot take.
And that's exactly what's happening. And I didn't even know you was going to say that before. I just said it before the last clip. So love is only but so much when it comes to raising these kids. You need love. You need a lot of things to raise a kid. But one of the most important thing, and this is the family court laws put emphasis on this because they're so strict about it. You got to have the resources. They want that child support. They want that child support. That's one of they talk about child support more than they talk about the actual emotional state or environment of the child. That's one thing's for certain. You're going to go into a hearing, you're going to hear about child support. So if the United States of America sees it that way, I would almost make the argument finances is more important than raising a child than anything else, because at the end of the day, you got to eat. You got to have a roof over your head. You have to make sure you're in the best position to to be educated as much as you can. Doesn't mean you have to go to college, because there's no correlation between going to college and being successful. But just some of these kids can't even read on par with their grade level. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Is it irresponsible to have kids when you're not in the best financial position? And if you do have a oopsie, do you guys believe in having an abortion? Because, you know, ultimately it's going to be unfair to put a child that didn't ask to come here in a messed up situation. I don't have no thoughts on abortion. I'm going to leave that up to you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.